Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Let's get started in 3, 2, 1.
You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kid stealing, wheeling dealing. Don't you open your mouth about the best.
We in here talking about practice.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni.
Outside to Watford, 3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now! Wow! Taylor's gone! Jonathan Taylor! Goodbye, touchdown, Indy. Game for the win, and one, Tyrese, the terror.
But there is no doubt about it, yeah, you mean Gene Okerlund. You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Welcome aboard, everybody. It's another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from the Hard Truth Studios high atop Brick House number 1 on this Wednesday. Jim Coyle with you as always. Thank you so much for being with us. Dylan Sinn will be along today from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Dang, it's easy for you to say. Kyle Nedrip from the Indy Star and Rick Bozich, the captain, as well. Plenty to talk about as the World Series is set. It will be Broadway against Hollywood. We shall see how that goes. In a very untimely passing of Fernando Valenzuela yesterday at the age of 63. The former Dodger great passes on the day that LA secured their berth into the World Series. So that puts a little taint on that, but that's okay. We'll remember him for the great pitcher he was, man. Who can forget that? The eye roll. The Ohtani, moral LA news, the Jose Ohtani baseball, the 50-50 ball. Remember, it was kind of disputed if you remember that, but it sold at auction yesterday for a record $4.4 million. What are you kidding me? For a baseball? Wow. That's someone who has way more money than about anything else, I guess. But you got that. The Celtics, man, they're lighted up in the opening night of the NBA. 29 three-pointers, a record breaker as they knock off the Knicks. 139-109. So the Celtics make a statement right off the bat. So that's going to make life a little harder for our Pacers. But welcome aboard, everybody. Some good news. Curtis Rourke had a medical procedure and is expected back possibly by the Michigan State game. So that should bring a little sigh of relief to Hoosier fans. I thought he may be out a couple of games, but getting him back that quickly is all the better for Indiana as they can maintain the momentum that they have gained, and they have gained a ton of momentum. It doesn't matter where you look. Everyone has Indiana in their college football conversation. Many pundits have them in their college football playoffs already, as they should. There is no way on God's green earth that the boys up in South Bend should be ahead of anybody that's undefeated. Not when you lose at home to Northern Illinois. I don't care who you play or don't play and all that excuse making that has been going on. So plenty to get to talk about today, as well as your comments. Thanks a lot for everybody hitting us up early and often on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Don't forget to go visit Hard Truth today in Nashville, Indiana, located on 325 acres of beautiful rolling hills there in Brown County. Take an ATV ride. You can take a distillery tour. They've got a full-service restaurant, live music all the time. Just a great place to be for anything, family hangouts, the whole deal. How's everybody doing? Guys from all over, John in Southport, Brian down at Jeff, and our peeps, no matter where, our affiliates, appreciate you so much. 97.7 ESPN The Ref down on the river, covering the southwest corner of the state in Evansville. The region, the voice of the region, 104.7 FM, 1230 AM, WJOB, and Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan. Make sure you keep it tuned right here to these stations throughout the day for continued great content. Welcome aboard, and looking forward to it. Appreciate you. Give that all the new intro. All that credit goes to producer Rob. Man, what a tremendous job. Absolutely. I do too. I was ready when I first heard it. I'm like, let's go right now. I'm ready to go, man. That will sure get you fired up and ready, and love it as well. Appreciate you guys. I'm glad you paid attention. Yep, there's that. Nope, it's the Journal Gazette. Journal Gazette, Russell. It's not the Journal Gazette part I get wrong. It's the other part that just flows out sometimes too easily. Yes, the Celtics are absolutely going to be a problem when you can come out in your first game and be that prolific behind the line. Wow. Does Johnny Cash ever wear black? Is that a question? Or is that, I guess that's directed towards me. I don't know. Not yet. Yes, the Celtics are on fire, Russell. Let's see. Yeah, Andrew. Fernando, only 63. It didn't hear a cause of death. Not that it really matters, but yeah, sad to see him pass. He was just a fabric of that Dodger organization for 4 decades. He was their Spanish broadcaster ever since then. So, and no one wore his jersey number. It didn't get retired until last year. But no one wore it until, well, it was retired. So no one ever wore it again. So there's that. Appreciate all the comments, and you can comment as well on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, on YouTube, on our YouTube channel is where you can do that if you want to make a comment. But you can do that at any time as well. That makes sense. I just didn't see that, so I assumed that to be it, Brian. But I didn't want to do that. Yes, EJ Williams did leave Indiana's team. He only played 4 games, so he was still eligible to get another season. He's a senior, but if there's I can't imagine anyone has any concerns here. They have so many receivers that there are guys that just could not get onto the field. And as a senior, I get it. If you're not playing, well, use that extra year someplace where you can go do it and have fun. So, yeah, Russell says Oregon, if they get by Illinois, they could remain undefeated. Well, it's as Russell, if you've listened to us here, I expect that to be the case. Oregon probably is not going to lose a game unless Illinois can upset them in Eugene, which I don't expect, but you never know what to expect in college football now, and that is the great part of it. Can't Illinois go to Oregon and hang a loss on them? But, if they were to do that, if Illinois is able to do that, then they could possibly go 11-1. Then you would have 11-1 Illinois, 11-1 Oregon, an 11-1 Ohio State. If Ohio State beats Penn State, an 11-1 Penn State. And if Indiana happened to lose to Ohio State, an 11-1 Indiana. You could end up with 5 11-1 Big Ten teams. Not a scenario Hoosier fans want to see, because now you're deciding between even more teams for the college football playoffs. I don't think that Illinois can go to Oregon and beat them, but I don't know how good Oregon really is. Truth be told, they should have lost that game. Or I think that they would have lost that game had it not been for the smart thinking at the end by Dan Lanning, which has now been outlawed. So if Ohio State wins that game and they remain undefeated, that would have, to me, helped Indiana, because you would rather seen them undefeated. That way, even if you lost to them, that doesn't hurt nearly as bad because they're still with one loss. And that means they would have handed Penn State a loss. They would have handed Oregon a loss. I don't know. It's still going to be tough for Indiana to make it in, even though everyone has them in, because the college football committee, I don't know how they're going to view the Hoosiers. Are they going to be able to overlook the fact that it says Indiana on their jersey? Are they going to be able to overlook that because they want teams that they know are also going to bring big fan bases if Indiana ends up being in the college football playoffs? The scenarios I see is going to have them traveling to take somebody on. There are 12 teams now. The first 4, they get buys. The second 4, they will host 5, 6, 7, and 8. Those teams will host 9, 10, 11, and 12 of the playoffs. I see Indiana in that last group, which means they will travel to someplace to play. But the committee, I will bet you, if they're looking at Notre Dame and Indiana, they're going to be thinking about crowd. They're going to be thinking about TV. They think about things that do not have anything to do with the actual deserving of being into the college football playoffs. So there's that. Let's see. What was that I just saw? I'm assuming, is this to guess who the guest picker is going to be? It will not be Anthony Thompson. It will not be Antoine Randall L. I'm telling you, it's going to be Kyle Schwarber. Antoine Randall L. I don't know if he could get away from his duties. He's a coach in the NFL. Unless they have a bye week, Detroit, and I haven't looked that up, I'm going to imagine they have a game. And if they have a game, they're probably preparing for that game. While it would be cool, and then again, maybe he can get away. Maybe they bring him in on their wheels up private plane, fly right into Bloomington, fly out. I don't know. I'm still thinking it's going to be Schwarber. He's definitely off. His season is over. He is a big timer. He is a well-known name in Major League Baseball, crushing home runs. It doesn't have to be a football player. As a matter of fact, it rarely ever is a football player if you think about it. Last week, Scotty Scheffler was, and boy, was that funny, because during the round of picks, Scotty Scheffler was on there, and the Miami-Louisville game came up, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm going with Miami here. Nothing against the people of Louisville, great people, but yeah, funny." Hey, we've got lots more coming up. Dylan Sinn's going to join us from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette when we come back. Appreciate you. There's not bad. Mark Bloom throws in Lily King. Now, that is the first time I've heard that name, and that is a great. Now, Mark, that one is one that I cannot argue. I've had reasons that now that person can't, this person can't. Okay. I'm like, ooh, hands up. Hands up. You got me there. John says people are saying Joe Buck. Joe Buck is funny. I think he's kind of silently campaigning for it, if you will. So he was responded a couple of times on social media, said, no, I have. And someone said, Joe said it wasn't going to be him. He goes, well, no, I didn't say it wasn't. I haven't been asked, is what he has said a couple of times. So funny, but we'll see. We've got to take a pause for the cause here from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. We've got more coming up, including Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. When we come back, right after this, brought to you by Freethink Apparel. Just go to freethinkapparel.com and get your team, your church, whatever it is you need taken care of. They've got all your needs covered. Back right after this.
This segment is brought to you by Freethink Apparel.
That probably would have been a good spot to play the Hard Truth spot, Robert.
I've got that one when we come back in. Have it lined up.
What up?
How we doing?
Well, pretty good, brother. How about you?
All right. Not bad. Not bad.
What's new up your way?
Oh, not a whole lot. It's just still football season. Like that's I know we're getting ready for high school basketball.
Boy, is it ever.
This segment.
So yeah, we have high school preview stuff coming out. Yeah, we have high school stuff coming out next week, but that's I'm doing some of that too. So
hey, so I'm looking at this, has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but Sam Houston beat Florida International and became bowl eligible in their first season. How's that?
Their second season. It's their second season.
Okay. Well, ESPN is wrong then.
Yeah, I think so. They have 6 wins. They're
right, but I'm reading. But as I'm reading it, it says they held off Florida International 10-7 on Tuesday night to become bowl eligible in their first season following a 2-0. My bad. I didn't read it correctly. In their first season following a 2-year transition.
There you go.
They buried the lead.
Yeah.
I was just like, did I miss the rule change?
That was an ugly game. Just really, really ugly.
You think? 10-7, man.
Yeah. It was 7-7 all the way deep into the fourth quarter. I think there might have been a game-winning field goal. The funny thing is,
they've held Indiana to the least points of the season so far, if you can call it that. I think Indiana held Indiana, but and you know what? That could end up being the case all season long.
It could be. Yeah, boy. That was the thing, is after that game, it seemed like the defense was ahead of the offense. For IU.
All right, we got about 30 seconds. We'll be back at 19:30.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. with a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music. You can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So, no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Wednesday. Thank you so much for being with us. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette joining me now. Dylan, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Jim, as always.
Oh, it's a pleasure, man. Some great news for Indiana football fans as Curtis Rourke undergoes they call it a surgery. I call it a procedure involving his thumbnail, I would assume. But and the word is he could possibly return as quickly as the next game in Michigan against Michigan State, which is a little quicker than I anticipated that coming on. But that is just great news for Indiana. I think that Tayven Jackson is more than capable of handling business this week. We'll see, but he looked pretty damn good in that second half against Nebraska.
Yeah, absolutely. He made the throw that impressed me the most was the one that he made to Elijah Surratt down the sideline for a touchdown. It was just really well placed, and he had a pressure in his face at the time. I don't think that's a throw that he makes last year. I know there are people who are concerned that he struggled at times last season. I think the context is just so different around him this year that I think that he will be better just by virtue of having a better supporting cast, better play calling, and in addition to just being a better football player in his own right. So I think he will be fine. It is just a question of how good Washington's defense is. We don't really know. They've had some good games. They've had some bad games. They gave up 40 to Iowa the last time they played, but also Iowa had some obviously really good defense and special teams plays. So we'll see. It's still kind of unclear how good Washington actually is. I don't think they're great. But I think that is going to be something to watch because their defense has at times been good. Not recently, though.
Yeah, something I picked up listening to Jed Fish's presser yesterday is that his safeties coach is what's his first name? Sunsery. I'm drawing a blank on his first name now, but Tino Sunseri's brother, Vinny. You think they're not an Italian family? Yo, Tino, yo, Vinny. Hey, come on, it's time for dinner, man. So that's a solid Italian family, but they got some brothers going at it. But he spent 4 years with Steve Belichick, who just came over to become the defensive coordinator for Washington after 12 seasons on the defensive staff of the New England Patriots. Probably learned a thing or two.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they've been good. Like I said, they've been good at times this year. They were okay when they beat Michigan. I didn't think they were great, quite frankly. I think they actually Michigan had something for them at the beginning of that game, and they kind of made some nice adjustments and they clamped down. So we'll have to see, especially when Jack Tuttle came in. Jack Tuttle led a couple of touchdown drives in that game. So we'll have to see. I do think that Iowa was able to run the ball. I think Indiana should be able to run the ball at least a little bit. And it's kind of hard to scheme around being able to run the ball unless you put 8 men in the box. I don't think you want to do that with kind of the receiver talent that Indiana has. So we're going to see. I do think that Indiana should be able to move the ball at least a little bit. I do think you're going to see at least some drop off in efficiency because Rourke was just so good this year. It's really hard to put into words how good he's been this season. There are throws that he makes that just make things look incredibly, incredibly easy. Those back shoulder throws to Surratt against Nebraska were both just absolutely incredible plays, and the deep ball to Cooper. I don't know if Tayven Jackson has those in his bag at this point in his career. He might at some point. I don't know if he does at this point in his career, as good as that touchdown pass to Surratt was. So I think you're going to see it. It's probably going to be a little bit clunkier, maybe. I don't think you're going to go down and score a touchdown on 4 out of every 5 possessions like they've been doing. And it's not going to, you're not going to just melt down the field against a good defense. But I do think you're going to be able to move the ball. And so I think that there's every chance that Jackson puts up a good stat line and Indiana is able to move the ball and put some points on the board.
Well, there's no question that Tayven Jackson has made leaps and bounds improvement. And part of that is because, first of all, Kurt Cignetti, according to I think it was Nick Saban said, is a good quarterbacks coach, which is what he did. So, and you've also got Tino and Mike Shanahan. So he's getting a lot of good coaching. He has gotten a lot of good coaching for the last 9 months, 10 months, or however long it's been. It makes a difference. And you can see it on the field. And then being behind Curtis Rourke has to be solid, because Curtis Rourke is now in the conversation for the Heisman, although he has no shot at that. That's not a shot at Curtis. It's just a fact, because no one is going to be was it Genty for Boise State, or maybe Cam Ward, Miami. He's gotten all this publicity, but his numbers are Curtis Rourke's numbers are actually better in totality to me. Yeah. He leads in so many different categories. It may not be the flashy one, but it's the one that, I promise you, it's the one that NFL scouts are looking at.
Yeah. In yards per attempt, he's number 2 in the country behind Jackson Dart at Ole Miss, and rapidly approaching Jackson Dart, quite frankly. So yeah, there's a chance that he ends up number 1 in the country in that category. I do think that Rourke's Heisman campaign takes a hit with the injury. Obviously, people want to see people.
But that can be completely recovered by multiple wins, and depending upon what he does at Ohio State, or what Indiana does at Ohio State, that will change everything, because unfortunately, it's about perception. And the Heisman Trophy has become this. What are the words I'm looking for? It's not what it used to be. It does not go to the absolute best player in college football too often. When I'll always go back to the fact that Tevin Coleman did something at the time that he was only the 6th person ever to do, rush for over 2,000 yards in an NCAA season, and he didn't even get an invite. Meanwhile, Oklahoma had 2 guys there. That was complete and total BS. So, yeah, we've seen how it Antoine Randall, same thing. But he's doing everything. And you want to talk about the most valuable player? How can you not be the most valuable player when you're the MVP of this team?
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, this team has been such a team. Right. I do wonder if that hurts him a little bit, is that this team has been such a across the board solid team. He's not having to do superhuman work every week for them to win games, and yet he's doing superhuman work and they're winning games. Right. Like, it's like he could be like 70% as good as he is, and they'd still be winning these games. They'd just be a lot closer. His brilliant play is putting them from winning games into winning games by blowout. And it's just kind of a weird situation where he doesn't have to be as good as he is, and yet he is fantastic, and it's putting them, it's making them even better than they otherwise would be. So, because there's so many good players on this team. There's so many people who have contributed to the start that they've had, that it's hard to pick one. But then it becomes obvious, because like when you watch, it's him and it's Surratt and it's the running backs and it's everyone across the board. It's been really fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at the NCAA stats right now, and Indiana has the 7th highest rated scoring defense now, replacing who was that? Oh yeah, that was Nebraska. They're nowhere to be seen. But Indiana has the number 1 scoring offense. Yeah, no program in the country is in the top 5 in both of those categories, and it's time for people to stop ignoring that, because the other members of the top 5 on offense, Miami of Florida, which we know what they've been doing, Boise State, Navy, which people don't poo-poo that. They're undefeated. I think 6-0 right now.
They are 7-0. They're like IU
7-0. Okay, they're putting up 44.5 points a game. And then number 5 is UNLV, which plays Boise State this week. What the hell's the over in that game?
Friday night. That game is going to be absolutely box office. The winner of that game has the inside track to making the playoff, I think, as the G5 participant, depending on how Army and Navy do when they play Notre Dame. But yeah, that game is going to be absolutely box office. Highly recommend staying up to watch that Friday night. It should be a lot of fun.
Oh, hell yes. I mean, and it's not often that you hear that. And then both Army and Navy will play Notre Dame this year. So that's going to be very interesting because that'll either take care of Notre Dame or not. I still, Notre Dame, in no way should they, I'm not saying they shouldn't be in the conversation, but no way should they be in the top 12 right now. When you have Northern, somebody just pointed out, Northern Illinois got beat by no one this past weekend, like 13-7. So that loss to Notre Dame is that just got to weigh on it for me. And but although they get an opportunity to make up for it with the teams they play, and I was thinking that maybe at the end of the year they'd go to USC and USC, but nah, USC has they're next to last in the Big Ten. They're 1-4 in the Big Ten. Yeah, USC is Lincoln Riley's job even safe?
I think it is. First of all, he has a huge buyout. And USC is not quite as rich as people think. And like USC is not throwing around money like people think they are. And second of all, I do think that he had made it clear this was going to be a building year. I think you lose Caleb Williams and it's going to be a step back. They would like to be better. Obviously, they would like to not be 3-4 and have not lost to Michigan, who it seems like they're terrible. But they did beat LSU. That's the funny thing is that LSU is another team where I am really having trouble getting past a loss that they've had. And that loss is to USC in week 1, kind of like Notre Dame, where obviously USC is better than Northern Illinois, but like it's one of those things where LSU seems like a very good team now, but they lost to that USC team in week 1 and didn't look very good doing it. So that's another one kind of like that where it's a loss that's weighing on them deep into the season. So we'll see. I do think Notre Dame will be there. Basically, the way it shakes out for me is that Notre Dame is going to be in the playoff at 11-1 and out at 10-2. I think that's pretty fair because they're going to have to beat Army and Navy down the stretch of the season. Those two teams are both very, very good despite being the service academies. They're both awesome. They're kind of like Indiana where they haven't played the toughest schedules, but they beat everyone solidly and soundly. So we'll see how that plays out. Notre Dame Navy this Saturday should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, John says Indiana fans have been waiting for the second coming of Knight, and he came, but it's in a different sport, and his name is Cignetti. And I've talked about this. There are a lot of similarities. Cignetti is, I see him as a combination of Bob Knight, of Nick Saban, and Kurt Cignetti, but he has a lot of traits that these guys had. He doesn't have all of them, luckily. He's funny. First of all, he's actually a funny guy. Bob Knight thought he was funny, but Kurt is kind of funny. But he's very detail oriented, and he's able to do it without imposing his will on you. I think that he is able to do this by showing you, telling you, and they've had this blueprint, as he said. They've had a plan, and it's worked, and it is working. It worked again. So there's no reason. If you wonder why Kurt Cignetti is so confident in himself, there you go. Yeah, he said it, and he did it. It ain't bragging if you can do it, and. Right. He is.
I do think at some point it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like he said, I can do it because I've done it, and now he's doing it again. And like when he tells people on the recruiting trail, hey, I can do it, and then he goes out and does it, it's like, oh, okay, that's why. And then he gets better players, and that's why it helps him keep doing it, right? And so it is interesting that they're 7-0 now. he has already clinched a 14th consecutive winning season. The worst they could do now is 7-6. He has been 14, every single one of his 14 years as a head coach, he has had a winning record. He has never had a losing record, even 500. That's kind of crazy considering some of the programs that he took over. Elon was 2-9 the year before he got there. IUP, I think, was 4-7, and IU was 3-9. He made all three of those programs winners in year one. That's pretty crazy.
I wonder how many people, if they did, I'm sure not many did, but took the over and under on wins for the season for the Hoosiers and
Wasn't
took
it like
the under.
3.5? Wasn't it 3.5?
5.5. It was 5.5.
Okay.
But I wonder if anyone took the under.
Yeah.
I would really be curious of that. Just because, and say, well, how do you like me now? But yeah, what is going on in Bloomington is absolutely astonishing. We talk about it nonstop, but how can you, there's no reason to stop talking about it because it is incredible, but it's one of the great things that's going on in the game of college football today. And I'm telling you, look at Alabama. And I love Kalen DeBoer, great guy, great friend of the show, who's been on here multiple times with us. And I'd like to see him succeed. But I have to say, I enjoy seeing the big boys getting a little taste of it. And with Tony Bennett retiring, I'm kind of like, you know what? That tells me when the tough gets going, you didn't stick around. And I'm like, this is no different than it is for anybody else. I just, those excuses about where the game is going, yeah, it sucks, but it's the same for everyone. And I'm just not buying that stuff. I don't understand. I'm sorry, but especially when you look at what Kurt Cignetti is doing in the sport of football, where it is damn near impossible to do what he has done at the place where it is impossible. It's kind of really difficult to buy that from Tony.
Because I mean, Kurt is like, he's an old school guy, right? He's a guy who's been in coaching for close to 40 years now, and obviously things have changed under his feet many, many times, and he's adapted every single time. And he's probably looking at it like, I don't know, guys, this seems pretty easy to me. Maybe just figure it out. I don't know. Like it can't be that hard if I'm able to do this in year one. And I do think part of it is that he was able to bring over all those JMU guys, like the transfer portal player. Like when you build through the transfer portal, like IU did for this season, I don't think they plan to every year, but for this season specifically, when you build through the transfer portal, it's always a risk because you don't know how well these players are going to translate to your system. But Cignetti did know, because so many of them were JMU guys. Like, you know, he was obviously going to have a higher hit rate. Because he was bringing over so many guys that he already knew their skill sets. He already knew how good they were. He already knew what they could and couldn't do. And that helps, obviously. So I've said for a couple of weeks now, this is great. And everyone should enjoy this season as well as it goes for IU. It's been absolutely fantastic. I am actually fascinated to see what happens this offseason for IU, because they're going to have to go into the portal again. It doesn't look like they're going to have a huge high school class.
I wouldn't be not so fast, my friend.
Cignetti has said they only want 15 to 20 high school guys a season. That means pretty heavy portaling again.
That I agree. I agree. Absolutely. Well, because why would you not? Because when you lose, if you lose, all right, a senior, even if you have someone that's moving up, why would you not rather bring in a guy that has a year, 2 years experience? Because
that
2 years availability.
Because over time, if you do that too much, it stunts the growth of the roster, right? So there's a balance act. There's a balance act, absolutely, between winning now. I mean, you're seeing it at Florida State, right? Florida State did portal for several years, and this year they just didn't hit on nearly enough guys. They had guys that they thought were going to be good that are not. And so we're going to see this offseason how good Cignetti and his staff really are at player evaluation, because it's going to be a lot harder this offseason because they're not just bringing in guys from JMU. And I think they're good at it, to be clear. I think that they'll be fine, but I want to see how they go about doing it, because that to me is fascinating. Like, we are watching one of the best coaches in the country. I'm just really interested to see how he goes about program building in year 2 after so much success in year 1.
Hey, we've got to take a pause for the cause. We're here at the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios, high atop Brick House number 1. Make sure you visit Hard Truth Distilling Company in Nashville, Indiana. Visit today. We've got more coming up. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette with me, back with more after this.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing, or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition, or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, and your best place for new and used vehicles. Oh, mercy. And this weekend is going to be just bonkers. I mean, last weekend with college, or the Big Noon kickoff was pretty big, but that's going to pale.
Yeah.
Pale in comparison.
Have you gotten your like the email about parking yet?
For
like they send out a weekly email and say, hey, if you want a parking pass, let us know.
No, but I already have my passes because I guess I attend every game.
Okay.
But I would not wait. I would reach out.
I did yesterday. That's why I'm curious. Because usually they've been sending them out on Monday. And this week they didn't, because usually they want them they play Wednesday afternoon. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, this is going to be woo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wait till Michigan.
Yeah.
Even though Michigan's not Michigan, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all, especially if IU wins these next couple of games. It does not matter how good Michigan is, because that Michigan game is, if you win, you're going to Columbus undefeated, right? Like that's setting up the biggest game in college football outside of Alabama, Georgia this season, maybe.
Well, but see, this is, to me, it's bigger because you're
Oregon. Yeah, you're both be 10-0.
And how big would it have been if Ohio State was 10-0?
Yeah, exactly. Ohio State's still going to be higher ranked by then, even if Indiana wins these next 3 games, which is kind of funny.
Unless Ohio State loses to Penn State.
That's true. That is true. When is that game? Is that the week before?
2 weeks, November 2nd.
Okay. That's the same week IU plays Michigan. No. That's the week IU plays Michigan State, right? Yeah.
Yes. The week of the college football playoff poll.
That's right. Are you going up to East Lansing for that game?
I probably will. I didn't plan on it.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a hike for you. It's a little bit closer for me. It's only like 2.5 hours for me.
Yeah, I'd like to. I was hoping to go see my daughter at Ole Miss, but I'll wait to see. She will determine that if she is available or not.
Okay.
We got about 15 seconds.
This segment is brought to you by Boost Fundraising.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from high atop Brick House number 1 at the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios. Visit Hard Truth in Nashville, Indiana for a great fun day and fun spirits. They've got it all. Sour mash bourbons. They've got some good stuff, baby. We've got the good stuff as well. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette with us, and looking over the Big Ten standings, of course, Indiana sitting at the top along with Oregon, both at 4-0. And then there are Penn State 3-0, Illinois 3-1, Wisconsin a surprising 3-1. Wisconsin's been a riser, man. Wisconsin had really been just a flip-flopping fish, and then all of a sudden, I wrote it down yesterday. Their last 3 games they've won by a combined margin of 120-16.
Yeah, it's funny because we talked about it earlier. The weirdest result in the Big Ten this year has been USC beating Wisconsin. That game it seems like that shouldn't have happened. That like USC won that game relatively easily. And it's like, well, where did that come from? Like it is
and
more.
The reason I bring that up is because they host, I believe, is it this week? They host Penn State.
Yes. Yeah. That should be a really good game. It's interesting because for about a year and a half there, it seemed like Luke Fickell just didn't have that team on the track that he wanted to. And it was kind of surprising because he was such a slam dunk hire for them. It was like, he's such a good coach. How would this not work? Especially at a place like Wisconsin, where you have an identity already preset. And they finally found a running back for a couple of years there. They didn't have, like, they had Braylon Allen, but they didn't use him as much as they should have. And now that he's in the NFL, they found a running back that they are using on a pretty significant basis because their quarterback got hurt. And so they have a backup quarterback in, they're running the ball more, and it's working. And they are paving over teams. They paved over Purdue. Obviously, that's not that difficult, but they've done it a couple of weeks in a row now. And it's finally like, okay, this is what we thought Wisconsin was going to be under Luke Fickell. Let's see Penn State go win a game, right? We saw them struggle against USC. We saw them almost lose that game. Can you go on the road and win a game against a team that matches you physically? Because I don't even think USC matched Penn State physically. I think they just beat them. They beat them with skill positions for a while in that game. And so can you beat a team that matches you or comes close to matching you physically? We're going to learn a lot about Penn State this week.
Yeah, and some chatter going on the Andy Moore Honda hotline and asking if that are we saying that if Indiana loses at Ohio State and they get their second loss in the championship game, they'd be out of the playoffs? First of all, if they lose to Ohio State, they won't be in the Big Ten championship.
They probably won't. No, there are some scenarios where they could be. Oregon loses a game, or
right. It's going to take a lot of other things for that to happen.
Exactly. Let's put it this way: 11 wins and IU is in the playoff, regardless of what happens in the championship.
Now, is that the case? But see, I everyone is saying that. I'm reading everywhere. I'm reading says that. My only concern is the fact that I think there are going to be a minimum of 4 Big Ten teams that are 11-1 or better, which that Oregon could be 12-0 at the end of the regular season.
Right.
I stop at the regular season. Nothing that happens in the Big Ten championship matters.
No,
if you're in the Big Ten championship and lose,
you're in.
You're in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I don't care if you get another loss there because somebody has to lose that game. But yes, both teams are in. I don't think Indiana gets into the Big Ten championship with a loss to Ohio State, but if they win, they are definitely in the Big Ten championship without question, and definitely into the college football playoffs. So that's one way of answering that question. Now, is that a very difficult road to hoe? Well, hell yeah. Going to Columbus. Nobody, even this team will not be expected to do that. As a matter of fact, they're only a 6.5-point favorite over Washington at home this week with Tayven Jackson, which I think is short-sighted because, there's going to probably a little drop-off, but I don't think there's enough drop-off. We'll see. But Indiana, this offense, it's more than just Tayven Jackson while Curtis Rourke has been the man, don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of weapons, and I think that Mike Shanahan and Tino Sinceri will do an incredible job of game planning. That's something Indiana has done, and I don't think people realize.
Yeah.
They game plan every week for every team. Everything is geared towards whom they're playing, both offensively and defensively.
Yeah, it's honestly been really fun to watch this year, seeing these guys, especially Shanahan go to work against some of these really good defenses they play. I know there haven't been great defenses on this schedule, but Northwestern was a good defense. Nebraska was a very good defense. Like statistically coming into that game, Nebraska was, I keep telling people this, I think people are missing it. Nebraska was considered one of the best defenses in the country.
Yeah.
So I do think that I was really impressed with what Shanahan had ready for that game. Obviously, it helps that the offensive line has been really good. It's really hard to scheme around an offensive line that's struggling. So I do think that that's part of it. But no, I think that there will be some schemed up stuff for this game. And again, we talked about the Steve Belichick effect. I think he's a fine coach. I think Shanahan is a better offensive coordinator than Steve Belichick is a defensive coordinator right now. That could change. Belichick's a young guy, but so is Shanahan. So I am interested to see that matchup play out. I think it's going to be fascinating, especially how IU schemes around some of the relative limitations that Jackson has compared to Curtis Rourke. I'm not saying Jackson is limited, but he is limited compared to Curtis Rourke, I do think.
Yeah, but he also has something that Curtis Rourke doesn't have, and that is a stronger ability to run the ball.
That's
which
true.
They may put some plays in.
I think absolutely you're going to see that a little bit because it's not something you've seen on tape. It's hard for teams to game plan for it. We saw that last year with Curtis Rourke. With Tayven Jackson. Excuse me. He can move the ball with his legs a little bit. Remember that play that he made against Louisville where it looked like it was a tying touchdown? He ended up 6 inches short. That was a fantastic play, even though he didn't get in the end zone. It was just really athletic and fun to watch. I think we see some stuff like that in this game.
Yeah, he should have called an audible on the 4th and 1 play and just ran the damn quarterback.
Running it himself. Absolutely.
Oh, it was wide open. John says if all three went out, it will come down to who beat OSU by the most points.
Well,
boy, has anyone thought about the fact that, first of all,
if IU, Penn State, and Oregon
all beat Ohio State?
Yeah.
Nobody, I've not even considered that.
I have
imagine?
I don't believe that is going to happen, but
I know, but it is still
really
possible because
really
Ohio State plays at Penn State.
Yeah.
That's going to be difficult. I don't know how good Ohio State really is. I think they're better than Oregon.
Pretty good. Yes, they are better.
I think they're better than Oregon. They should have won that game.
Believe, yes. Here's the thing. They are not great in close games. They're not. Like there are times where they are so talented they beat really good teams by 2 scores and it doesn't matter. They're not good when the game is close in the fourth quarter. There are times where they keep it close, they let it stay close in the first half, and then they kind of pull away in the second half. But if that game is close down the wire and into the fourth quarter, they're not very good. I know their fan base is not happy with Ryan Day and his performance in some of those games, and I think that if IU can keep it close for 3 quarters, they are going to get a little bit tight. Ohio State is in that fourth quarter. So it's going to be, and they absolutely can score. Don't get me wrong. They have one of the best offenses, maybe the best offense in the country with all that.
They haven't scored a ton of points.
They haven't. They put things in neutral a little bit. There have been some games where they've been up by so much they just rest the starters for almost the entire second half at times. And they were able to score against Oregon, who has pretty good defense. So we'll see. I am fascinated by that matchup. IU has to win their games first, right? To make that game as important as it could be, IU's got to go win their games first. But if they get there undefeated, boy, howdy, is that going to be a fun matchup? Because I do think that IU has more want to. Let me just say that flat out. IU would want that game more than Ohio State does. And I think that might end up mattering in the end. I don't think I would not pick Indiana to win that game, but I think that they want it more. And I think that would be really fascinating to watch play out.
Absolutely. And I think that they know what lies at the end of that rainbow if they're able to do that. This is a team that is playing like their hair's on fire, like their lives are at stake. And they are doing it, but so mistake-free, game in and game out. Now, does that continue with a different quarterback and Tayven Jackson and one that is in a previous life had, we've known him. That was his issue. He's not always made the best decisions. Although Saturday, he comes in cold off of the sideline and looked like he had been starting all year. Now, was that partly a product of coming in at halftime? You've already got this big lead. There's all this momentum going and all this. Now you've got the keys from the start. You've got, he knows all week that he's going to play. Big difference when you're not allowed to think about it. You just got to go react. He's had all week to think about it, but I think that he is looking forward to the opportunity and is going to do what the rest of these players have done and just continue to play with this chip on their shoulder. The defense has been absolutely outstanding, and we'll see how it goes. Dylan, what is up next for you, man?
Yeah, I'll be in Bloomington on Saturday. I'm really interested. I'm going to Bloomington on Friday night, so I can be there early in the morning Saturday for game day. I just want to see kind of the atmosphere around there. I'm really excited for that. So looking forward to that. It should be one of the highlights of the year for Indiana and for college football as a whole. I think it's going to be an absolutely electric atmosphere there.
Absolutely. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Looking forward to seeing you this week, brother.
Absolutely, Jim. Looking forward to it. See you then.
Absolutely. Hey, this segment brought to you by Bubba's 33 down in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Great place to catch a game with friends and family. And we've got more coming up here from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Kyle Nedrip from the Indy Star. Rick Bozich on the way as well. We're back with it all after this.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So, no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and Russell, or if you were talking about what I said in regards to a second loss coming in the Big Ten championship, you've got to eliminate that as a loss. It's kind of a doesn't count thing. It's what happens at the end of the regular season up till that point. But there are a lot of things to play out yet. This weekend alone. Illinois is just hanging around. They're a good team, a really solid team, but they are not a playoff team. They don't have the offense. I think they have a solid, I'd like to say a solid defense, but damn, they gave up 49 points to Purdue, including 40 in the second half. So that's an ugly mark on Illinois. And the fact that they lost to Penn State because they have zero offense. They lose 21-7. I'm going to be interested in the Penn State at Wisconsin game. Although Wisconsin was only able to score 23 on Northwestern last week. Prior to that, they put 42 on Rutgers at Rutgers and 52. They beat Purdue 52-6. Oregon wins 35-0. So it's hard to glean from other games. It's hard to really get
Got about 15 seconds.
So why do the teams in the championship game are both in the playoffs? And Russell, if you're good enough to make the the Big Ten championship game, you're in the playoffs because you are the top two teams of your conference. So therefore, both of you deserve to go in. There will be somebody else after that goes in as well. But I'm not sure what I'm not getting across, but it's the end of the regular season is what counts towards getting into the playoffs.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. Hopefully looking forward to Kyle Neddenrip joining us from the Indy Star. Get caught up on what's happening around the state in high school football. But big time happenings in Bloomington this weekend. And before I forget, for those of you that live in the Bloomington area or close enough that you'd want to come up, bring the kids, this Sunday out at the Bart. Boo at the Bart, baby. Boo at the Bart. They're having a little Halloween get-together at Indiana's Bart Kaufman Baseball Stadium. We'll get details on that. I'm going to try to get Jeff Mercer on, the baseball coach, to talk about that. But they're having some fun times out there. And also, let's see, I think, don't forget, be sure to visit the Hard Truth Distilling Company in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, and Big Woods Restaurants there. They've got a full-service restaurant. They've got live music. They've got Cabbage you can stay in overnight, located on their 325 acres of rolling hills, ATV tours, distillery tours, all kinds of great things to do there. But let's see, what else am I looking for that I wanted to put up that I put in here yesterday? I don't know where it went. So it was in regards to what the Hoosier Ticket Project is doing this weekend. They have 400 people going to the game that they have provided tickets for, families. That it's just a cool thing to see. A lot of them are coming from the Boys and Girls Club of Monroe County. I'm going to have to pull that up, see if I can find that again. But I thought I had that in there, all that information. I hate that I don't, but I will get it in there. Toot sweet. But first-time fans can still request tickets for this game. That's what they do. They supply tickets to people who've never been to a game, have trouble getting to a game. I think it is very cool. There you go. First-time fans may still request tickets to the Indiana versus Washington game. Just go to HoosierTicketProject.org/request. Can you imagine that? This is a sold-out affair, people. Sold out. But if you have never been to a game, you've got a kid or two, reach out to them. I think that they could help you out, which now this is not for people who just want to go to the game. Don't be one of those. Because if I find out, I will shame you from now to kingdom come about that. This is for families that have never had this opportunity. And what a cool thing to do. Also, if you want more information about the Hoosier Ticket Project, because they also do this for basketball, you can just visit HoosierTicketProject.org or email info@HoosierTicketProject.org to get a better idea of what's going on with that and how you might take a kid to a football or basketball game in the future, which is I don't think there's another school around, at least I haven't heard of one, that does that, which I think is beyond awesome, especially now. I mean, before, people were probably trying to give their tickets away. Not anymore, baby. And I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you so in regards to you better get your damn tickets, because I told you long before the Nebraska game that those 4 games were going to sell out. Not because I'm Nostradamus. I knew what was coming. I could see this train coming down the tracks, and I knew it wasn't a headlight. These guys are rolling, and it's not going to stop. I don't know if this is a preordained thing, but it's just spectacular. It's spectacular for the university, for the town. I mean, think about all of this attention being heaped upon Bloomington, but especially Indiana University, especially Indiana football. You know, I've talked long and hard how Indiana has done this. Kurt Cignetti and his staff have done this with guys that I'm not going to say no one else wanted, but the big boys didn't want. JMU, I mean, was great. Old Dominion, Ohio. And now these same players are leading the nation. These same players have a top 7 defense. These same players have the most prolific offense in the country in all of Division I football. That's pretty impressive. Pretty good. As you look at the scoring offenses, you see Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin at number 8. Dabo Sweeney and those Clemson Tigers at number 7. Ryan Day's Ohio State Buckeyes at number 6. A surprising UNLV team there at number 5 at 43 points per game. Then Navy at 44 points a game. And then Boise State, who has the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. They've got a running back that is on par to break Barry Sanders' all-time rushing record of over 2,600 yards. Number 2 scoring, those vaunted Miami Dolphins with, was it Cam Ward? Yeah, Cam Ward, who has thrown for the most yards in all of the NCAA with over 2,500 yards already he's thrown for. But the Indiana Hoosiers lead the nation in scoring, still at 48 points per game. The y'all haven't played anybody thing. Come on, people. It's wearing old. They're not beating teams by 13-6 scores. They're just taking their will away. They are embarrassing teams. Absolutely embarrassing teams. And defensively, again, there is no program in the country that has now, this late in the season, I'm going to have to look through here. Ole Miss is the closest. They have the number 2 defense right now. See, Ole Miss also has a top 10 on each side. Ohio State has a top 10. Their defense only allowing 11 points per game while scoring 43. I didn't realize they scored that much. Let's see. Notre Dame is not on both sides. Tennessee is not on both sides. You got the Navy on the scoring, and of course, Army on the defensive side. That makes you feel good. And then, of course, the Indiana Hoosiers, number 7. Iowa State, not on both sides, but number 8 in defense. Penn State, number 9 in defense, but not offensively. They're not that great. And then Missouri. But Indiana, between number 1 and 1 and 7, I'd have to put something like 3.5 and then an average. And then Ole Miss is 2 and 8. So that puts them ahead of them. That's 4. So there you go. Don't forget, reach out to the ticket, the folks at Hoosier Ticket Project if you have a kid that may want to go to the game this week. Kyle Nedrip not able to join us this week, so we'll get back with him next week. Yeah, the Army-Navy game, this is probably going to be, I'm sure maybe back in the 40s or something when they were much more a part of the college game. But this, in the modern era, this has to be the biggest Army-Navy game ever. If they can get to each other undefeated, holy crap. That's going to be something spectacular. Brian asking a good question. Who is the second string quarterback for Saturday? That's a good question. I do not know if it's Tyler Cherry or if it's Alberto Mendoza. I mean, one would guess Tyler Cherry, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Jason says, put me in, coach. Justin says, Mendoza. Cuban Missile. Yeah, I don't use that enough. I came up with that, and Navy has Notre Dame at home Saturday. Huge game. Huge game of importance for those two and for Indiana. If you're Indiana, you want Notre Dame knocked out of the way. And their Army and Navy's going to play, so somebody's going to lose that game. So they'll take care of each other. But yeah, you would definitely like to see Notre Dame take another, I think. So yeah, SIG definitely broke the will of the NBA, Nebraska fan base. They have lost their mind over that, but it's cracked me up how it seems like it has set Nebraska football back. Matt Rule has just been beside himself. But that's what happens when you don't respect what you don't understand. I've told a lot of people. I've had conversations with some national guys. I'm like, trust me, you're not seeing it from the inside. If Juju comes, does the missile stay? Yeah, you guys are asking questions that are impossible to answer, first of all, and secondly, pointless. If can't if that. I mean, that's too far down the road. Someone will leave. I would imagine, if Juju Lewis were to come to Indiana. I mean, they're going to lose Curtis Rourke, so it's not like they're adding an additional guy, but they're adding a guy that's going to be fighting for the starting lineup. Now, Alberto Mendoza, he could redshirt. He could redshirt this year. He's played in one game, I think, maybe. So all of those guys are eligible for a redshirt season, which is a possibility. I think you always have to have at least 3 quarterbacks ready to go. So I don't know if they would do that, but it's a possibility. We'll see. Hey, we've got to take a break. Up next, the captain, Rick Bozich, joins us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment brought to you by Cheryl Sizemore, Remax Realty. For those in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl, at IndyHomePros.com, and we are back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after this.
This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indy Homes Pro Teams by Cheryl Sizemore.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Damn, I'm hot. Again. Hey, there he is. What's on that hat?
It's Pitching Ninja.
Oh, never heard of him.
He's on Twitter. His nickname is the Pitching Ninja, but his name is Rob Friedman. He watches every game.
I know who that is.
He shows like the best pitches every night, the nastiest pitches of the night.
He's been a long time writer, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like a pitching guy. What's the word this week?
Well, I guess the biggest talk is the procedure that Curtis Rourke had on his thumb, which they called surgery. I call it a procedure. I guess he had either the rest of his nail taken out or whatever happened there and fixed it up because they said he could return as soon as possibly Michigan State.
Right. What do they put a fake nail on there or something so the new one grows back, or put a pad on there, or what?
I would imagine yeah. But it can't be a ton because you got to have that grip
right
and the touch. So that's, I don't know. I do know this. I'm bad about like biting my nails when I get jacked. And you know what it's like if you ever take a nail down too far, called quicking it, you hit the quick.
Yeah.
You know how bad that hurts? Can you imagine losing your whole freaking nail?
No.
And did you see the picture?
Part of it was stuck in a Nebraska guy's helmet.
That's what it looked like. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was
gross.
Yeah, that
you got a new display thing here.
Yeah, I thought a little color to it. Just a little color.
Very nice.
Thank you very much. Oh, you should hear our new intro, man. Rob killed it. Rob, the only thing is, I think we need some back end segment stuff with like little miniatures.
Bumper music.
Like that. Yeah. Just like you did on each one.
Yeah, that's the one I'm working on that with adding little sound bites with them.
Perfect. Oh, that you're ahead of you've thought ahead, man. You have thought ahead.
All right, we got about 10 seconds left. Gonna get it going.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. This segment is brought to you by the Fresh Fork in Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Wednesday. Of course, coming to you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Joined now by the captain, Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. And Rick, it has been a powerful couple of weeks for Indiana football. This entire season has been great, but they go from having Big Noon Kickoff in with Urban Meyer and all that crew. Now they've got the daddy of them all, College Game Day, with Pat McAfee, Nick Saban, and Lee Corso headlining that dais. Although you still have Kirk Herbstreit and Desmond Howard and Reese Davis. But it's just, first of all, they're honoring. For those of you that don't know, they are honoring the 1979 Holiday Bowl team this weekend, of which Lee Corso was the coach of. That was like the last bowl Indiana would go to until Bill Mallory arrived, I believe. So
Correct.
that was a not quite a decade in the making, but not far into that. But
pretty sure it's one of the bowl games they won too, right?
Yeah. I can't remember how many Mallory won. I was at most of them.
2.
Yeah, and he went to 6 in 8 years. So, but yeah, it's going to be a blast. It is just going to be. This is a 3-hour deal as opposed to a 2-hour. I don't know where they're going to put the goal for the kicking for Pat McAfee, unless they go down onto the field and do it, man. But it's just they'll find room to do all of that stuff. But I think the excitement is just spreading out, and that's great for Indiana. They're also having a red out this weekend. So, and of course, I saw one person who had to be the jackleg. That's very sad. Indiana should know their colors are crimson. It should be a crimson out. And I'm like, and I looked and saw what he did. Well, he's an attorney. I'm like, enough said. Jackass. But yeah, so Indiana getting into the excitement, but they have to win, and now they have to go into a game with a little unknown. Tayven Jackson, although he had a spectacular second half last week, it's a difference.
No doubt about it. I guess the reassuring thing is he did start a bunch of games last year. It's not like, he's just been around this season and he knows what it's like to start. He's played in some, against some tough competition. He's had some ups and downs. He's fought through adversity. He's been with his coaching staff now through the spring and 8 games this year. So he should have his confidence, and playing the second half last week should help him relax and be able to perform. I was fairly convinced after the press conference on Saturday that Cignetti said they'll change the playbook a little bit, more to his strengths, and maybe narrow it down a little bit to plays that they really think he'll be able to execute. And the biggest difference between the two is I think Rourke is a 5th or 6th year guy. He's got a ton of experience, and he showed this year that he's really good at doing his progressions. And, first guy's not open, go to the second guy's not open, go to the third guy's not open, run the ball. Jackson, I think, will have to show that he can do that, and we'll see how they change the offense. And the other thing I'll say is the running attack, I think, is often overlooked with Indiana because it doesn't have one stud running back like Tevin Coleman or Anthony Thompson or Vaughn Dunbar. It's got 3 or 4 guys. They said that's how it was going to be. That's how it is. And they either go with the hot hand or keep guys fresh. And the running attack's been very effective.
And I've said this all year. That's what makes this offense so unbelievably difficult. That's why one of the reasons why they are the most prolific offense in the country right now, ahead of all of the other great teams. Miami, doesn't matter who you're talking about. They are still putting more points on the board than anyone 7 games into the season. And it's because they have not just a balanced attack, but they have a multifaceted attack from each one of those. There's 8 guys that are catching passes on the receiving end and probably 4 or 5 guys that are running. So you can't focus on anybody. And now I think that having Tayven in this week will give them another dimension because he has the ability to run the ball, whereas you don't really want Curtis Rourke out there running the ball, but Tayven can do that.
You're right. And he showed it again on Saturday against Nebraska. And excellent point that you made about the receivers. I mean, you got 2 guys in Surratt and Cooper who both are over 400 yards, but there have been games when Price was the big receiver, and there have been games that Cross was a very effective receiver, and Keyshawn Williams has had moments, and Zach Horton's been decent at tight end, so they can spread the ball around, and the backs can catch passes. And so, yeah, it's a very versatile offense, and they've adjusted. The thing last week where I didn't realize it even going into the game. Nebraska had not given up a rushing touchdown all year, and then they score 5 on them. I mean, that's
first thing they do of the year, their first drive.
Yeah, you're 6 games into the season. I know Nebraska isn't, they're not Georgia or they're not Alabama or whoever, but they got a good defense. They got a good running defense, and they stopped, they stopped Colorado's rushing attack. And for Indiana to do that and do it that quickly, I mean, credit to Bob Bostat, credit to Tino Sensori, credit to Mike Shanahan, Signetti. They know what they're doing. I mean, they've proven beyond a reasonable doubt they know what they're doing.
Absolutely. And Bob Bostad, I don't know if anyone gets more credit than he does.
No, you're right.
It's hard to say that, but this is the offensive line was the bane of Indiana's football existence 3 years ago. I mean, it was it's why Indiana has 3 different quarterbacks starting at 3 other schools right now. It's just been crazy.
I mean, they couldn't block for run blocking at all. And their pass blocking was shaky enough that guys were getting hit all the time, whether it was Ramsey or Penix or Basilak or whoever else you want to mention. And we all knew it. And Tom Allen, for whatever reason, didn't want to admit it. And then didn't they bring in Rod Curry that one year to replace him for the rest of the season? And then they brought in Bolstead, and he's the only guy that Signetti kept from the previous staff, which says a lot. And let's remember, these guys on the offensive line, they're fine players, but it's not like any of these guys were big-name recruits. The best offensive linemen in the state of Indiana all went to Ohio State, whether it was the big guy from Benton. What was that guy's name? DeJuan Jones. He's gone now in the NFL. Or
there's a kid from Floyd Central that's there now.
He's there now. He's a backup. And there's also a kid from Indianapolis named Fryer. I think Jeff Fryer, I think his name is. He's starting on the offensive line for Ohio State. So he's done this with guys who were like mid-level recruits. And, if they can get some players in there, the offensive, some bigger, more athletic guys. I mean, and I know that he doesn't believe in the star system and all that stuff, but some guys who are
players that had 0 stars coming out of high school. That's a mind-boggling stat to me.
Some, and they need depth at the offensive line. But I mean, Bolstead has proven he knows what he's doing, and he did it at Wisconsin. I don't know why he was available, but credit to Tom Allen for at least bringing him in.
Absolutely. And keeping him. I mean, he's the only guy kept off of the previous staff. So that tells you a lot and what Signetti's thoughts are there. And Indiana, the big talk by Kurt Signetti is always stay humble, stay hungry, and being able to handle success. That's going to continue to be tested every game this year, because with every win, with every college game day appearance, that stuff continues to go higher and higher. Now the JMU guys, they've been through a college game day before. They had them down there already, but this is new for everyone else. But this team is they've been able to do that. And that is really been the most impressive thing to me is these guys are playing as a team all the way across the board. And to get a football team to do that, because how many guys we talk about that actually probably play in the game? 40 to 50 when you across the board all day long, all defense, special teams, but they're all playing in the same direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's a distraction, but the good news is I guess that the game is at noon, and so it's not like it's an all-day thing where the players be in a hotel room, sit around watching it before they're getting ready to play a night game or whatever. Or, this is the same routine as last week, and the players, I'm sure, are pretty isolated at the hotel. They get up in the morning and eat. They come on the bus to the stadium at a certain time, and they're pretty much isolated from all the hype. And the hype is, I was, as you know, I was there last week. You were there, and it was different than anything I've ever seen at an IU football game, and I've been going to them since 1971. It's how early the people got there. I mean, there was so many RVs and tailgating situations set up, music, people having a good time, the crowd. Then I walked all the way around from where we parked to the south side of the stadium, and just the crowd around where the Fox set was just jam-packed with people. It was hard to get across 17th Street to go see some friends of mine who were over there, and everybody was enjoying themselves and stopping and taking pictures of things like, is this really happening at Indiana?
Our good friend Aaron Matus was there having an enjoyable day. So
I went and visited him.
Yeah, I happened to see him on the way in. Hopefully he'll get to come back. I can't remember if he's coming back this week or not. But yeah, this is going, and so whatever that was, this is going to be that much more.
Yeah, it is.
And it's not so much because the Indiana-Nebraska thing was big going into that game, but it's now you've got College Game Day, and the whole nation will be watching from the Bloomington campus for 3 hours leading up to that. And you've got Lee Corso, which is a very cool thing. But what would he put on if he were to pick Indiana for that game? And since it's not an ESPN game, do they do that?
I don't know. I think they do. I guess it would just be a jumbo IU football helmet if he's going to pick Indiana.
He could put a bison on his head.
Yeah.
No one would get that, though.
Not very many people would get that. I'm looking forward to actually, hopefully they'll bring him out on the field with the 79 team the way they did.
Well, I would think that they would.
Yeah. And that would be a really emotional moment because Coach Corso, he put in 10 years at Indiana and different era, but he was such a great ambassador for the school, always so positive. He did public appearances all over the state.
He was a witty guy, man.
Oh, his television show was when he was in his absolute prime. He was funnier than heck.
Well, he brought that stupid double-decker bus down, which I was
at that game. That first game, that first game he ever coached. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they rode into the stadium on a double-decker bus.
Oh, I used to have that photo, and man, I don't know that I still do. Dag,
they got beat one game, and he started this television show. They rolled him out in a casket, and he rose up.
There we go. There we go. That's him on the back. See on the back two guys there. That's Lee Corso on the left.
Wow, where'd you get that?
You know what? I don't remember where, but I'll tell you something else. I've got to remember who told me this, but apparently that bus is still around, and I don't know what shape it's in. And because I'm like, who told me this? Because I wanted to reach out to him and say, dude, you've got to bring that to Memorial Stadium if it's even running, which I would doubt it, but who knows? But that and the calling the timeout at Ohio State up 7-0, gathering the team and taking the picture of the scoreboard, probably that one right there is, I'm like, who the hell thinks of that?
Just an incredible entertainer and mind and wit. And, he was great with the media. Was a student paper guy back then, and just couldn't have had a nicer man to deal with. And, it's gone on the rest of his career. It's no accident he became what he's become, because he's smart and he's funny and he's charismatic and he's an entertainer, and God bless him.
Absolutely. And still, he fought back through a stroke to get back onto the College Game Day set. And, he's getting up there. Who knows? This could be his last season. You never know. But
he's 89. Isn't he 89?
He's up there, man. He's up there. But it's incredible to get to bring him. I hate to say bring him home, but
89.
His last coaching stop, right? I mean, he didn't coach anymore after Indiana.
No, he went to Northern Illinois.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah, he went to Northern Illinois after he left IU.
And then to College Game Day. College Game Day's been around for 37 years. That's his longest tenured.
Yeah, I mean, he made College Game Day, really. He really did.
Absolutely. What are your expectations this week with Tayven Jackson having the keys to the offense?
I think he'll perform fine because he's played so much. I mean, he played nearly as much as Sorsby did last year. And, he's gotten all the reps this week. If he's applied himself during the whole transition under Signetti, he should be as well coached as everybody else on the team has been. He's got weapons to work with. Washington's a very capable team, but they're not an elite team, and so I would think as long as they could protect him and let him do his thing, he'll do fine. I mean, the key will be get off to a good start. You'd hate to see them been behind 1 second all year, so you don't really want to project what would happen if the Washington comes out and scores first and Indiana's playing from behind. But I think Jackson will be fine. Of course, so is 89 Gordon Cicero.
I agree. He showed that last week, and great improvement there. I don't think there's. I think they're going to more than cover that 6.5 point spread. I was a little surprised that Vegas again. They continue to make Indiana a very enticing bet for those of you that bet games, because they have destroyed every line that has been
covered every game.
Let's see. I can't imagine one they didn't, because they've won every game by double digits.
Right.
And I don't recall them ever. I'd have to go back and see what it was early on. But I think that they've covered every single game. They've never trailed in a game. They haven't allowed a team to score in the first quarter yet. That stuff will come to an end, I'm sure, at some point, but it hasn't as of yet. College football playoffs, a big conversation for Indiana, because it's serious now. This is real. They have to keep winning, but the game at Ohio State is going to carry an enormous amount of importance for that.
Yeah, I mean, they got 3 to go through before they get to that one, but I'll be curious this weekend. Doesn't Nebraska go to Ohio State this weekend? They're like a 25.5 point favorite. Yes. I'll be, the comparative score game isn't always valid, but I'll be interested to see how Nebraska bounces back from that loss against IU, and whether they're at all competitive against Ohio State.
Or is what Ohio State does against Nebraska. I'm curious to see that as well. And then the other game I'm curious is Penn State at Wisconsin, who all of a sudden has been kind of putting up a bunch of points. But
Wisconsin's gotten it together. They started slow, but they've, they got drilled by Alabama, but they've won. Haven't they won like 3 in a row?
Not only have they won 3 in a row, Rick, it's been by a combined total of 120-16. They put a ton of points on. Now they have played a schedule like Indiana's, but I don't care. You're in the Big Ten. You're playing on the road. I always say, ask Alabama about what conference games on the road are like. It's not easy. So,
if you're talking about playoff stuff, I mean, a Wisconsin victory over Penn State would help Indiana, because Penn State's unbeaten at this point, right?
Yeah, does Indiana fans want to see Ohio State beat Penn State, or Penn State give Ohio State another loss, effectively knocking them out of the Big Ten championship for certain, and a second loss? I don't know, pretty much it doesn't take them out because it's Ohio State, but a 2-loss Ohio State team versus a 1-loss Indiana team, although that loss is to Ohio State. I don't know how that works out at the end of the year.
Yeah. It'll be curious if Indiana can finish the regular season 11-1. Let's say they don't make the Big Ten title game, whether the playoff people put them in. That'll be curious at that point.
We'll see. Hey, we've got to take a break from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com is with us. This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks, where tomorrow night you can catch Inside Indiana Football with Don Fisher and Kurt Signetti. 1285 College Ball Road. Back with more right after this.
This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their Cinnamon Vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Oh, baby. Big decision day today. I'm trying to decide if I even want to go up there or not to Greenfield Central High School.
Well, Liam McNeely was just named the Big East preseason freshman of the year. So, I mean, Mullins isn't coming to Indiana, right?
It doesn't sound like it. But what does that have to, which would be, I don't know. What is it?
Might be a more interesting story to go up there and talk to him about why he didn't pick Indiana.
Yeah.
If he'll talk about it. Do you know his family at all?
I know his dad.
What's his dad's name?
Josh.
He just started following me on Twitter. I thought was interesting.
Well, you're one of these people.
Just like this week. That's interesting.
Didn't probably either hasn't seen.
What does he do?
I don't know. But I always think I'm like, okay, man, the parents, they're not going to get to see that many of their games.
Maybe they're going to fly up there.
Every game. I mean, not every game, maybe on weekends or something, but
well, I mean, they'll play.
How the hell do you fly to Storrs, Connecticut?
Huh?
How far is Storrs from New York?
From New York? Oh, I don't know. You fly to Hartford and drive. It's like a 35-minute drive from Hartford. I don't know. The whole thing is mind-boggling to me. We'll see.
All right, about to get it going in about 10 seconds.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth. Welcome back on this Wednesday. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com is with us, and it is time for the Hard Truth, brought to you by Hard Truth Distilling Company in Nashville. Make sure to visit Hard Truth Distilling Company in Nashville. Beautiful Brown County. What a great time of year for that. 325 acres of beautiful rolling land over there to have an absolute blast on. Rick, today is decision day for Braylon Mullins at Greenfield Central High School tonight at 6 p.m. All signs seem to be pointing to Storrs, Connecticut, and a commitment with Danny Hurley's two-time defending national champions. If after losing Liam McNeely to UConn after having been committed to Indiana, and then another kid that would seem to have been a lock for Indiana for quite some time, now they're going to lose. If they lose him to UConn, do you have concerns about recruiting for Indiana, or does it even matter in this day and age?
Yes, I have concerns, and yes, I think it matters. To have a kid who grew up an hour away from your campus, who's a 5-star recruit and has the one skill that the program has needed for a long, long time, which is the ability to shoot the basketball, and who, depending on who you talk to, grew up in a family that was an IU basketball, at least followed them. I don't know if they were fans and came to games, but they were very into IU basketball. To have him go to UConn is a bad look. And I know that Mike Woodson did a great job last year in the transfer portal, and he should have a good backcourt this year. But I think if you really are going to build a program, you do have to have some good freshmen that come in, and you really want to have good freshmen from within the state of Indiana who play for Indiana AAU programs like Indiana Elite or whatever, and are teammates with Trent Sisley. And it's a big miss, in my opinion. It might be the biggest miss of Mike Woodson's tenure here as a recruit.
Yeah, with getting Trent Sisley, whom a lot of people thought was going to be a Purdue get, which he also comes from a family who was a big IU family, has got a brother and a sister that is at IU already. And then they landed Trent, and that would have kind of led you to believe, well, they've got a little bit more of an inside track there. They were AVU teammates. They're very, very good friends. Right. But if it doesn't happen, you have to wonder why. We can wonder all we want, but unless we were told, which I doubt we'll ever be told the true reasons.
Not on the record.
Yeah. So, but UConn's got a lot going for it. They're the two-time defending national champion. Now, winning a third in a row is difficult, but there's also other things. Hurley has put a lot of guys in the NBA over the last couple of years, and that's a big thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he can point to guys who played there the last couple of years, like that Cam Spencer kid last year who transferred in from Rutgers, and say he plays sort of like you, except you're better. Look at what we did for him. He got an NBA camp. You'll do even better. I got Tristan Newton in the NBA. I've got Donovan Clingan in the NBA. I'm sure he used that one with Eric Reeb. It makes sense. I mean, that's the hot name right now. Duke and Carolina are the hot names. They get pretty much everybody they want. And Indiana, for whatever reason, chose to go head to head with these two programs for a lot of players in the last few years and gotten none of them, whether it's Filipowski or TJ Power or how many others have we gone through? Last year they had McNeely for a while, and depending on what you believe about why he changed his mind, in part it's because they've actually gotten outworked. And Danny Hurley made Brian Mullins a priority and came to Greenfield and watched him quite a bit and let him know that they really want him at UConn and how they're going to use him. And people in Kentucky would feel the same way if there was a player in Louisville who was really good and he went to UConn instead of U of L or UK. People in Columbus, Ohio would feel the same way if there was a kid who grew up right outside Ohio State and he went to play at UConn, or a kid in Raleigh, North Carolina, snubbed North Carolina and went to UConn. So it's not a good look. It really isn't.
Yeah. And so now if that ends up being the case, you had, like, again, Trent Sisley, who they were also outworked on. I'll be honest with you. Matt Painter outworked.
Yeah, they were.
Woody, 3-1 probably on Sisley, but it probably was taking that just to try to get even in that case. Do you think any lessons are learned by Indiana, by the staff, or do they just chalk this up as, hey, this is today's recruiting?
No, I don't think any lessons are learned. I think the philosophy is there's going to be 2 or 3 guys they're going to try and get out of the high school ranks, and if they don't get them, they're going to go for portal guys who are a little bit older anyway, and build the team that way. I mean, it's happened. I mean, what was it last year? Boogie Flan, McNeely, Derek Queen. There was a couple of other guys they didn't get. The year before was Kaiser, and I forget all the names, but I mean, how many recruits have they actually gotten over the last couple of years other than at the end of the year? I mean, really, last year it was nobody. The year before that, was it nobody?
And they're going to end up with what potentially this year? 1?
Yeah, Sisley. The year before that, it was Cups and Newton. and they really got them, way ahead of time. I mean, they didn't.
Well, Cups was an Archie Miller recruit originally, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Walsh had the connection. They got Newton. I mean, they ended up getting
Maybe it was Brian Walsh connect under Archie.
Bates and Renew and some of these other guys at the end of the line after guys decommit or whatever. But in terms of actually getting in early and grinding it out for top recruits, they're not getting them. And, there's got to be a reason for it. And I think part of the reason is I think kids pick up on they want the head coach to grind out there. And Hurley's grinding and John Shire's grinding. And from what I hear, Mike Woodson isn't grinding.
And by grinding, you mean getting out and seeing kids, visiting kids, going to games.
Yeah, going to more games, going to high school games. Yeah, that's what you hear from people.
Yeah, well, and we've seen that. There was a lot of complaints last year when at the beginning of the sectional when the coaches were nowhere to be seen.
And we didn't even mention Harrelson. There's another one.
Yeah, and obviously they have their philosophy, or Woody has his philosophy, and it's not for me to say what he should do and shouldn't do, but I'm just reporting what is being done. And I don't know that it's, why do you think that he is, because he's in a rare group. No one else actually that I can think of approaches it this way. Even when not Dean Smith, but the Roy Williams was in, the Laney stages of his career, he was at New Albany recruiting Romeo. He was down at New Albany High School. He was getting out and about and doing those things. So is there too much of an NBA mentality?
Could be. I don't know. I don't know him well enough to really know. I go back and read Season on the Brink about how many times Bob Knight drove down to Heltonville, Indiana to watch Damon Bailey play as an 8th grader. I mean, he and Bob Hamill used to go out and watch high school games all the time. He was all about it. And that's why he got Steve Alford, and that's why he got Mike Woodson and Randy Whitman and Courtney Whitty and Steve Bushy, and I can go on with all the Indiana kids. He didn't get them all, but he sure, Luke Recker, I can go on and on. I mean, he sure got a lot of them because he got out and worked for them. It's a different era now, different things. NIL's now a factor, but it's not a good look, in my opinion, to get beat by Micah Shrewsbury for Harrelson. Not a good look. It's a second-year coach at Notre Dame who grew up. He's a family. He's got siblings that went to IU, right? And, he went to Notre Dame and talked about his great relationship with the head coach and how they talk about things other than basketball. And so, you can, as I said at the beginning, he got a bunch of good players out of the pool in terms of Miles Rice and Carlisle and Ballo and stuff, and they should have a fine team this year. But I think if you polled people that follow Indiana basketball, they expect or want players like Mullins and Harrelson and Sisley to come to IU. And that means something to them. And might be old-fashioned, but that's the way I think the fan base views it. Do you agree?
Oh, definitely, because if you have them in your backyard and they're quality players, why not? Would you not want them? Because that's part of the culture right there. They know the culture, at least the school and the tradition and all that. It's ingrained in them. If you're bringing in one guy a year, I don't know how you can have culture really.
And, you criticize Archie Miller as much as you want to. Archie Miller and Tom Ostrom got out and were grinding. They got Trace Jackson Davis, right? They got Romeo Langford. They got Trey Galloway. I forgot Xavier Booker. There's another one that went to Michigan State. I mean, I'm not sure that Trace Jackson Davis comes to Indiana under these circumstances. If it's a dogfight in recruiting, I'm not.
Well,
I'm
he
not
does
sure.
credit Woody with his
he does
development. So,
but he does. I know he does. But that was a recruiting thing that you had to be in for the long haul. Tom Crean got Cody Zeller. He got Jordan Hulse. He got Yogi Farrell, Colin Hartman, Devin Davis. I'm forgetting some, but
tons.
Yeah.
OG Anunoby.
I mean, Mike Woods is an in-state guy and that was the thing where once Knight came, he was in. But I mean, It doesn't work that way anymore.
Is
So
it just too much reliance on the bags of cash?
I don't know what it's all about anymore. I don't know. It's a lot of different things, but a lot of it is, I think guys want to be recruited. I just think that Danny Hurley just said, hey, I fell in love with this kid. He's coming to UConn. I'm going to outwork these guys. And he did. And he sold his vision. And as you mentioned, that's not convenient for his family to watch their son go to UConn. And I'm sure he had to know that if he went to IU, he'd be, the king of the campus, right? I mean,
absolutely.
He's going to go to UConn. He'll be a basketball player and he'll be a nice recruit, but he's not going to be the king of the campus. And that wasn't enough to get him to come to Indiana. So you should go up there and ask and find out, what did Hurley do to win this recruitment?
I might just do that. Daggone it. I'm going to do it just for Rick.
I just think when you look at Purdue, they're not having a good year recruiting this year. They got a bunch of Indiana kids on the team. Matt Painter.
Yeah, but that's not going to do him a lot of good. He has too many. He brought in too many rookies.
He put his time in on Trent Sisley, even knowing it probably wasn't going to work. He still put his time in, right?
Boy, did he. He. And I mean, how?
Yeah. I don't know. That's just part of the game.
Rick Bozich, WDRB.com. Make sure you're giving him a follow and keeping up with all that he has to offer, because it is massive amounts. Rick, are you coming up this week?
I'll be there. Save my seat.
Look forward to seeing you again, my friend. It'll be a fun one. That's going to wrap it up for us today. Big thanks to Dylan Sinn for joining us from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Most importantly, thanks to each and every one of you. Without you, we wouldn't be here. It's going to wrap it up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. We're back tomorrow to do this all again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their Cinnamon Vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So, no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.